Let's look at the second section of Chapter 7. Remember the verb pouvoir, to be able to, or can? It kind of has a special form with the passive voice. Let's look at the sentence here. Un chat peut être vu. This is a cat is able to be, so être is to be, seen. Past participle there. And so what we have is we have the infinitive of the passive voice, être vu. A cat is able to be seen. Now we could also simply say a cat can be seen, but we have basically the infinitive of the passive voice without the word to if we use the word can. A cat can be seen or to be seen, être vu. So that's when we'll see the past participle after the infinitive of être. Now notice this phrase, peut-être, can be, is not the same as peut-être with this little tiret, this dash connecting them, in between them. This peut-être is the common word for maybe. Je vois un chat peut-être. I see a cat, perhaps. Perhaps I see a cat. It's when you're not too sure of something, you say peut-être, which means maybe or perhaps, which is a little different than can be. So remember that this phrase peut-être, and you should probably make a flashcard for this phrase because it is so common, means maybe or perhaps. Now let's look at an impersonal subject that's kind of unique to French, un and l'on. It's kind of like the word one when we use one as a subject, like one is afraid to walk in the dark, something like that. But it's really broad in French, and it can get translated as I, you, we, they, he, she, one, people, someone. It's just kind of like this generic subject. So a typical sentence that somebody might say is, on a fait quoi hier soir? So on is one, a fait is a past tense of faire, quoi is a word for what in a question, hier, yesterday, evening, so that's how you say last night. On a fait quoi hier soir? What did we do last night, or what did you do last night? Is a simple way of asking that, using just on as a subject, and that way you don't have to conjugate with the you form or the we form, something like that, and the answer might be on est allé au cinéma. On, and then we've got aller, the past tense of to go, an intransitive verb of motion, so it's conjugated with être. So we went to the movies, or we went to the movies. That's that could be translated as. So it's a real common impersonal, or if the context makes it specific, it should be translated in that specific way. So on can also be translated in the passive voice. If we say on parle français en France, literally that means one speaks French in France. You can say that, or you can translate that as French is spoken in France, and that means the exact same thing. So sometimes the best translation for an on expression is going to be a passive voice. Now, notice how I say both on and l'on with an L apostrophe in front of it. Well, for being more elegant, for having a prettier speech, l'on is often used instead of on in front of the word que in order to avoid the contraction con, which sounds like a not nice word starting with the letter C that you don't want to say. So you can say que l'on instead of this contraction. Also, sometimes it's used at the beginning of sentences, l'on est fatigué, one is tired, and after si, so that you don't have the two vowel sounds together. Si l'on means if one. Si l'on est fatigué, on dort tranquillement. if one is tired, so you say if a person is tired, he or she sleeps peacefully, would be how we could translate that. You could also translate if people are tired, they sleep peacefully. So that's how we could translate long. So there's no difference in meaning between long and on. It's just a question of making things sound nice. Now let's talk about some more impersonal expressions. These are going to be impersonal expressions of existence used to indicate that something exists. Now the most common is il y a, and we've seen that. And like il y a une souris, there is a mouse. Il y a deux chats, there are two cats. And so it's translated as there is or there are, depending on what the predicate is. But the verb avoir always stays in the singular. It doesn't change form. So when we translate it, there is or there are, we're not going to figure out what the antecedent of il is or where there is. It's just an expression of existence. Another really important expression, impersonal expression of existence, is illsajida, and this means it's a question of. Now we've seen agir means to act upon something, like a chemical acts on some substance, or something like that. Not acting like doing a play, but acting upon something or acting on something, having an effect of. And this expression il s'agit de means it's a question of. Il s'agit d'argent. It's a question of money. If we're bringing up what is the subject of that we're talking about of. Now this is important because of all the expressions that people miss on exams in this course, il s'agit de is the most common, because if you try to translate it as like the reflexive verb for agir, it acts upon itself, you're not going to get the right meaning. You've got to know il s'agit de, meaning it's a question of. Now there's some other expressions less common on page 120, but you should learn those as well. Now here's 4 exercises, so write these out, and once you've written these out, you can go to the next video to check your answers.